Hey friends, today we are gonna see what if Naruto was lost forever. Tayuya and Sasuke. Sound of the Leaf movie. This forest just outside of Konoha brought back painful memories for Uzumaki Naruto. It forced him to remember his first ever failed mission, which was the one he hadn't wanted to fail the most, where he just couldn't get Sasuke to come back home. Now Orochimaru had the young boy in his grasp, who knows what he was plotting at this very moment. Naruto punched a tree, if only he had been stronger. He could have brought Sasuke back, but that damn demon seal was too powerful, even for the first tale of Kyuubi, if only he had had more power. Moving along, he thought he heard a crunching noise. He turned around. Could someone be following him? Kakashi-sensei. He yelled back, silence, perverted hermit. Nothing. Deciding that he must have been hearing things, he continued on, and his thoughts came back to him. It had been only 4 days since the incident. Everyone had tried to cheer him up about losing Sasuke, but he couldn't give up. He was going to get Sasuke to come back, even if he didn't want to come back. The crunching noise came back. This time it was followed by a loud crash and a curse. It was in a female voice. Ah shit. Naruto quietly crept to the source of the sound. Something in his head told him that there may be danger up ahead, or maybe he was still getting over fighting the sound ninjas. There was the sound of water splashing and murmuring. Naruto was sure he wasn't imagining things. Coming to a small clearing, he saw a familiar sound ninja lying on her back. Her clothes were soaking wet with a little bit of blood on them. She looked out of breath and out of tune with reality. She breathed quickly and harshly. She muttered again and screamed, "Damn sand ninja." She was silent then. "Tayuya," Naruto said uncertainly. The girl on the ground didn't budge. Naruto walked up to her cautiously, in case it was a trick. As he began to see her face, he noticed she seemed to be either asleep or unconscious. Naruto looked around. Nothing seemed unusual or suggested an illusion jutsu. HMPH, serves the little bitch right for trying to stop us from catching up to Sasuke, Naruto said aloud. He couldn't bring himself to leave. The girl was helpless on the ground, with nobody to help her out. Leaving her there just didn't seem right, even if she had been the enemy at one point, and maybe she would try to fight them again later on. It didn't seem like the right thing to do to leave a wounded ninja alone in the forest for animals to find. Damn sense of righteousness, Naruto muttered as he put his left hand over her body. He knew a little bit of medical skills, at least enough to find out what was wrong inside of her. It looked like she had sprained her left ankle and bruised nearly all of her ribs. A visual assessment of the girl revealed several open wounds. There was also a bit of head trauma going on. No wonder she had trouble breathing, Naruto muttered. Her body was in poor condition. She was dirty and scratched, but then again, that was to be expected at the least from fighting Temari. Naruto figured he could convince his sensei to at least heal her flesh wounds and let her rest for a while. Kakashi could see the right in that, and besides, in the state she was in, there was no way she could succeed in attacking them. He noticed her face tensing up and her eyes slowly fluttered open. Her peaceful sleeping look went away and was replaced by a pissed off look. "You shithead. What the hell do you think you're doing, huh? Get your pervy hands away from me." Tayuya's body may have been in bad shape, but her mouth was working just fine. "Whoa hey," Naruto said, "I was just trying to help. What could a worthless leaf shinobi do to help me? I doubt you're even here to help me. You came back to make sure I was dead, didn't you? Well, I'm pretty much damned near, so go ahead and kill me." Tayuya waited for Naruto to whip out the technique of his choice to finish her off, but when he didn't, she gave him a well. "What the fuck are you waiting for? Look." Naruto frowned. "Look, I was just doing some damage assessment, excuse me for trying to help you out." Tayuya smiled a bit. "Well, in case you haven't noticed, I'm doing great, never better." She stood up. The pain on her face was obvious as she tried to stand on her left leg. Naruto grinned from ear to ear. "What are you grinning at, dickwad?" Tayuya frowned and put up her fists. "Come on. I got enough to finish off a worthless ninja like you any." She didn't finish her sentence. She fell to the ground clutching her head. "Damn damn damn," she yelled. Naruto put his hand over her forehead. She was too weak to slap it away. "Look Tayuya, you've got head trauma. Why don't you chill out and let me take you back to Konoha? We can get you to the meds there and." "Fuck that," she growled. "I've already been exposed to one piece of shit. The last thing I need is the stinking pity of 1,000 others." "I'm sure you'd receive anything but pity," Naruto growled back. Tayuya was silent, studying the boy's face. Then she looked away. "Don't take me to see any of the other people in your village," Tayuya said. "It's the last thing I want. If you can't treat me yourself, then let me die here." Naruto cringed. It was like she was saying her life was probably in his hands, and that sucked. He slowly lifted her onto his back. She was surprisingly light. He began to walk slowly back toward the village. He would have to find some way into the village without letting anyone see Tayuya. He wasn't going to ignore her request. It was against his way to ignore a harmless request. Kakashi waited for Naruto to return to the village. He had said he was going out to train, but judging by the way he had said it and the look on his face, Kakashi knew he needed a bit of time to clear his head. It was pretty hard on the demon boy. He had considered Sasuke a brother, and then this happened. Kakashi-sensei. Naruto's faint voice reached the Jounin's ears. He smiled behind his mask. He saw all of the dirt covering his student and guessed from the huge grin across his face he had spent the time training a bit after all. "So how'd it go?" he asked as Naruto came up to him. "Pretty good for a day's work," Naruto said. The grin on his face faded a bit. He seemed to be looking for the right words to say what he wanted to say. "Something wrong?" Kakashi asked. No," was the response he got. "Sensei, could you meet me at my house a bit later on? I've got something very important to show you." Kakashi eyed Naruto carefully. He realized that it was something that was troubling the boy. "Sure Naruto, are you headed home right now?" "Yeah, but come in about an hour, don't be late sensei." Naruto said that directly looking into Kakashi's uncovered eye to further say it was important. With that, the Kitsune vessel sped off towards his home. It had been an odd conversation, something about it hadn't been right, maybe it was the serious tone it had, maybe it was how he had avoided his eye until the very end, maybe it was how one of his whiskers was tad off. Kakashi sighed and looked into the setting sun, the light reflected off of his forehead protector. After he found out what was really going on, he was going to have to tell Naruto his Kage Bushin no Jutsu needed a tad of work. "Well, at least Kakashi-sensei won't be looking for me," Naruto said to nobody in particular. On his back, a very mildly impressed Ai opened her mouth to speak to the boy for the first time since they had left the forest. "Well, first shit, you sure do have a good Kage Bushin. Of course, it seems that your body hasn't quite recovered from fighting Sasuke-sama." The clone had a whisker a tad off. Naruto had told Tayuya about what had happened with Sasuke, ultimately leading up to him discovering her in the forest. What annoyed him was when she praised Sasuke's new power. "Well, I'll do for now," Naruto said, "and once I'm back to my normal standards, y'all never know the difference." "Yeah, once you get back to your normal crappy genin standards," Tayuya smirked. "Your team got lucky those sand ninjas showed up, or we would have eaten you alive. You were very close to getting hunted down by the Sound Five." "You say that to the guy who is going to become the next Hokage of Konoha village, once old lady Tsunade either kicks the bucket or resigns." Tayuya's small smile widened. "For such a little shit, you have big ambitions." Naruto scowled. "Well, I'm sure as hell going to be better than whatever the hell y'all are going to do with yourself." Naruto looked back and saw that his comment had shut up the redeed for some reason. Her eyes averted his gaze, and a small frown had replaced her smile. But before he had a chance to question why this had happened, he had reached his home. From the tree he was in, he made sure nobody was looking, then jumped down and quickly unlocked the door and rushed in, closed, and locked it. He set Tayuya down on his couch carefully before asking her what she wanted to eat. "Whatever's good," the girl said. "I'm not really a picky eater." "Me neither," Naruto said. "How's ramen sound?" "I'll go warm it up." Naruto left the room, leaving Tayuya alone in her thoughts. Never before had anyone been so nice to her. Her team, the Sound Five, had a motto: "The weak don't deserve to live." The weak included those of them unlucky enough to lose a battle. If one of her teammates had found her, he may have killed her for losing the battle, but this ninja, who had been her enemy, had shown her mercy. She remembered what he had said a few minutes ago about how he was going to be better than what she was going to do with herself. She actually now had no clue. If she returned to the Sound Village, she had a 50-50th chance of exile or death. For the failure to defeat a Konoha Chunin, she had no idea what to do next. Naruto entered the room again. He had a smile on his face. "Ramen's ready. Eat up," he said cheerfully. He handed Tayuya her ramen and sat down beside her and greedily slurped his portion. Naruto," Tayuya said shyly. The demon vessel stopped mid-slurp. He looked at the redeeded girl. She looked downwards and twiddled her fingers. "I just wanted to say thanks for taking me in. Y'all are not so bad for a shit if y'all'd actually care." Naruto grinned. He slurped up the last of his food and said, "As long as you need a place to stay, you can stay here. I think y'all need at least 2 weeks." Tayuya scowled. "It'll be better in 1. I need to get back to my work after this, and I'm a fast healer." Naruto smiled again. "Well, like I said, as long as you need a place to stay, y'all are welcome here." "Well, at least that's Naruto's thinking," a voice at the front door said. The two looked at the front door. Kakashi stood there with the door relocked and Naruto's shadow clone in his hand. The clone struggled until Kakashi whacked it and it poofed away. He looked from Naruto to Tayuya and frowned behind his mask. "So this is what you wanted to see me about," he said. Naruto stood to face his sensei. He hadn't expected to see Kakashi so soon. Behind him, Tayuya kept her eyes on the Jounin. She was very cautious of the possibility that this was a setup to lure her into a false sense of security and then kill her. She didn't completely trust the Leaf Ninja yet. Naruto licked his lips, he hadn't prepared his reasoning, so he was going to have to go with whatever came off the top of his head. His brain was racing, his palms were sweaty, and his throat was dry. Kakashi hadn't moved since head whacked Naruto's shadow clone. It was making Naruto even more nervous than he already was. He wasn't sure if he should let his sensei speak first, or if he should. Kakashi sighed and broke the tension with his voice, "So Naruto, you brought back a sound ninja, have you?" Kakashi nodded towards Tayuya, "And I see you've even gone as far as letting her stay with you." Naruto swallowed as he answered the taller ninja, "She was wounded, I didn't want to just leave her in the forest, it didn't seem right no matter who she was." Naruto gave the semi-demon girl a short glance, "Or maybe used to be." "Naruto, I understand that you can't help caring for injured people." Kakashi sounded as if he was going to give him a "she still tried to kill you" talk, but surprisingly, the conversation went into a different tone. "I really wish you would have left her where she was and come to get me from the village, all that movement may have caused some extra problems." The Jounin walked around the stunned blonde to the Redeed lying on the couch, he rested his palm on her forehead, she tensed slightly, but when a rush of warm healing chakra rushed into her body, she relaxed, several of her open wounds healed, and her ankle felt a bit better. "Kakashi-sensei," Naruto said. The silver-haired man looked at the blonde, he smiled, he retracted his hand and put it on the shoulder of the fox boy. "She will require rest," he said, "don't let her move much tomorrow, I'm no medical ninja, but I know that the head injury will clear up with less movement, don't worry about her slipping into a coma, I've ensured that that won't happen." And Naruto the older ninja knew he didn't have to finish his sentence, Naruto knew exactly what he was going to say, with that he walked out of the house. Leaving the two alone once again. Naruto, Tayuya said, she couldn't think of anything to say, she had never had a real sensei, so she didn't know what to say to a disappointed student, comforting others had never been her strong point, she decided to stay quiet and leave the boy think for a while. Maybe she should just do as the Jounin wished and take a rest so that she could leave as soon as possible and cause as little tension between the boy and his teacher as possible. The thought once again brought up the matter of where she was going to go after she recovered. She had nowhere to go and nobody to accept her. Maybe she could just go to a new village and get a fresh start, maybe. All this thinking was hurting her head even more than usual, she guessed that it was because she had hit her head, it further complicated the problem of her going to sleep, but that was partially a good thing, she wanted to stay awake in case Naruto needed someone to talk to. Tayuya was disgusted with herself, where the hell had that thought come from? What did she care if that orange piece of shit was comfortable or not? She needed to worry about number one, herself, she was all that mattered, what was she going to do? Convincing herself that the thought was a mix of head trauma and a small bit of gratitude for her life being saved, she turned over and tried to sleep, but her discomfort was apparent to Naruto when she turned over again after a few seconds. "So, how are you feeling?" Naruto asked, he sat back on the sofa with her, she figured she might as well tell him the truth. "I'm having a bit of trouble sleeping is all, no concern of yours," she said. When the blonde ninja put his hand behind her neck, she flinched, what the hell was he doing? Whatever it was helping her relax. "Don't worry," Naruto said, "Shizune taught me this technique when I was in the hospital, it was hard to fall asleep, so she taught me a relaxation technique using your hand on the back of your neck, it works better if the hand isn't yours, because it may be uncomfortable to do it yourself." His fingers massaged the back of her neck, she was still a bit cautious. But looking into his soothing blue eyes told her that everything was going to be okay, his eyes were the nicest shade of turquoise, she continued to stare back at him until she fell asleep. Naruto stood up, Tayuya had finally fallen to sleep, as for himself, he wasn't quite ready for bed yet, he walked outside, leaning on his front door, he watched the moon rise, he did this often, ever since he had realized why the villagers hated him so much the moon seemed to relax him, sometimes, the Kyuubi would speak to him, times like now. "You've brought back quite a snack boy, when do we eat?" "We're not eating her," he spoke softly, "She's a guest in our home, we'll be hospitable to her." "Oh I see, she's your mate then." The kid soon knew from the surge of emotion that he had hit a chord somewhere, he knew this untrue, but it was fun to fuck with his host every now and then. "Shut up stupid fox," Naruto said, his face turned a very light pink. "Well even if she wanted to be your mate, she won't once she learned of my presence within you, she'll reject you like all of the villagers here." "Kyuubi," Naruto's voice was warning the fox to stop, but the fox only snickered at his host's discomfort. "I've told you before that there is nothing that would satisfy me more than ripping you to shreds and scattering your body throughout the land, unfortunately that dream may be too far out to reach, but at least I can watch you suffer, but I won't let you die." Naruto went into a deep type of thought, he hated to think that the Kyuubi might be right, that nobody would love him because he was bonded to the demon, he could only keep the secret for so long, and chances were that Sasuke was going to inquire about the red chakra he had seen and find out about him, this damn demon ruined his life, every time he had a happy moment. He knew that it won't last because the Kyuubi would make sure something went wrong. A single tear slid from his left eye down his cheek. He just wanted to be accepted for the human on the outside, not the monster on the inside. The cool night air made him shiver. He stared at the moon again. "Do you disapprove of my existence too?" He asked the shining light. He got no response, as if it were considering it. Naruto wanted to punch something, to make something bleed. He wished he were fighting Sasuke again. He needed to release this pent-up anger. "Hey," a voice behind him said. Naruto didn't need to turn around to know it was Kakashi. "I'm going to let her stay with me, as long as she needs to, no matter what anyone says," Naruto stated firmly. "If you've come here to try and talk me out of it, you've just wasted a whole trip coming here. I'm not here to talk you out of it, just give you a bit of advice." The man gripped Naruto's shoulders. "You've got responsibility now. Taking care of someone, let alone in secret, is no easy task. You've got to protect her like you told her you would. Don't betray her trust no matter who she is." Naruto looked lost. Kakashi ruffled his hair and said, "If you need any help, I'll always be here." As Kakashi prepared to leave, he was stopped by Naruto's voice. "Kakashi-sensei." He spoke. Kakashi turned to him and invited him to continue. "You came early, what's up with that?" Kakashi smiled behind his mask. "I finished the book I was reading a bit after your clone tried to trick me, and the next installment in Jiraiya's series doesn't come out until next month." With that, he sped off into the night. Naruto turned to re-enter his house. As he reached for the doorknob, it turned and opened to reveal Tayuya awake on the other side of it. "What are you doing up?" Naruto asked. She looked from his feet to his chest, but never gave him direct eye contact. I guess I had a bad dream," she said. She knew it was a lame excuse, but she had to think of something. Naruto wrapped an arm around her shoulder and smiled. "Come on, we'll get you back into the bed. It'll help you if you want." Tayuya looked up to his face and felt a warm feeling as his arm wrapped around her. Maybe it was fatigue, maybe it was her own non-concern for where he put his hands right now, but she didn't want him to let go of her, even when he set her back on the couch and lie beside her on the floor. Naruto woke at 7 a.m. sharp. He couldn't help it, the clock had been set and it made a horrible noise at 7, yawning and stretching. He realized that Tayuya wasn't on the sofa anymore. He didn't have to wonder where she had gone for very long though. The smell of bacon and eggs told him that the redhead was most likely enjoying a full breakfast. Changing into a fresh set of clothes, he walked slowly towards the kitchen. Turning to enter the kitchen, he heard Tayuya curse. He noticed her sucking her thumb in front of a cooling stove. "It needs time to cool off," Naruto said. "Well damn it, I know that now," Tayuya responded sharply. "Stupid piece of shit, I'll give you some what for." Naruto smiled to himself and took Tayuya's left hand out of her mouth and looked at the burn. It was nothing major. He guided her over to the sink and let her run it under cold water for a while. "Boy, something sure smells good," Naruto commented on the morning smell of breakfast. It was a smell he didn't get the pleasure of enjoying often, since he usually ate a bowl of cold cereal and milk. Savoring the delicious smell, he walked over to the cabinet to get out his cereal. "What do you think you're doing?" Tayuya said to him. "I'm getting breakfast." Naruto replied confused. "Don't tell me you can't smell it cooking." Tayuya said with a bit of emotion in the words. "Isn't that just for you?" Naruto asked. Tayuya didn't answer. Instead, she pulled out a chair and beckoned him to sit. She picked up a pot full of eggs and gave a plateful to the young ninja. She then filled a glass of orange juice and set it next to the eggs. She took a seat across from Naruto and fixed her own plate, then hungrily dug in. Tayuya-chan, you really didn't have to do all this," Naruto said as he took a bite of the eggs. "I'm supposed to be taking care of you." Tayuya suddenly stood up. She pointed a finger at Naruto and looked extremely annoyed. "I'd like to know who the fuck gave you permission to call me Tayuya-chan." Naruto gulped down a mouthful of eggs. He hadn't meant to add the chan at the end, but it had somehow slipped out. He needed a moment to think. He really wished he had a Snickers. "I'm sorry Tayuya," Naruto said. Something told Tayuya to press on why he shouldn't call her that, but something in Naruto's voice made him sound sincere, so she dropped the issue. She sat back down and continued to eat her food. She was completely oblivious to the Chess kinda cute when Chess angry look Naruto was giving her. Becoming aware that he was staring, he quickly adverted his gaze to his food. Which he finished quickly. Deciding that since Tayuya had made the breakfast, it was only right that he wash the dishes, he made his way over to the sink. He glanced at the redhead as he passed her and noticed that she was still wearing her dirty stained clothing from when she fought Shikamaru and Temari. "Hey Tayuya," he said slowly. When she looked up into his eyes, he took that as a sign to continue. "Hey, I was just wondering if you plan to wear those same cloths forever." Tayuya looked at her clothing as if she had never seen it before. She tried wiping off some of the blood, but it had dried. There were a number of holes in her top as well. She seemed to shrug, then took another bite of her eggs. You don't look that much bigger than me, I'm sure that a t-shirt and jeans will fit me just fine." She didn't say another word. Naruto nodded, perhaps only to himself, and went to search his bedroom for the requested clothing. Tayuya silently finished her breakfast and found herself wondering why she had had such an outburst when Naruto had called her Tayuya-chan. Truth was, she felt a sort of warm feeling when he had said that, but her personality took it as an insult from a piece of trash in an orange jumpsuit. She sighed and decided that she wasn't so hungry after all. She scraped the remainder of her eggs into the sink and noticed Naruto's empty plate in the sink. The warm feeling that she got when he had called her Tayuya-chan returned. She seemed to take a small bit of pride in the fact that Naruto had finished the breakfast she had made him. It brought her back to last night when he had taken her back to bed. He had wrapped his arm around her and helped her back onto his couch. In all her years, she had never had anyone care to take her back to bed. She had never had anyone who even cared the slightest bit about her. Outside of the people who wanted to exploit her musical talents, like Orochimaru. Remembering him brought a chill down her spine. For some reason, she felt as if he already knew that she was still alive and was coming for her. She knew that if he didn't know now, he would find out and send someone to find her and, more than likely, finish the job that the Sand Ninja had failed to. She shook herself from the thoughts of her impending doom. She decided to focus on the here and now, and that was changing out of these filthy clothes. She turned towards the stairway and saw Naruto returning with fresh clothing for her to wear. "This was all I could find," Naruto said. He gave her the clothes and she nodded. "They will fit," she said. "Thanks Naruto, for everything that you've done for me." Naruto gave her a puzzled look and she gave him a small smile. She began walking towards the stairs and Naruto noticed a limp in the way she moved. It reminded him why she was here in the first place. "Hey, you think you're gonna be okay getting up the stairs by yourself?" Naruto asked. The Redeed shot him a quick glance over her shoulder. "I told you that I heal fast," Tayuya said. "In fact, I should be outta here in 4 days tops, so don't worry you little shit, you can return to your meaningless training soon, once I'm gone." Naruto thought he detected a hint of sadness in her voice, then he mentally slapped himself. Tayuya? Sad about leaving him? What a huge joke. He watched her struggle up the first step. She looked determined, but he could tell, whether she wanted it or not, she needed help. Tayuya wanted to punch herself in the face as hard as she could. She hadn't meant to be so cruel to Naruto. She wanted to say something nice. Instead she had called him a shit. She felt like the shit now, and the worst part was, she didn't know why she felt like such a big shit. Clearing her head again, she readied herself for the next step. Her left leg was killing her. But she refused to show any weakness to Naruto. She lifted her right leg and found herself off balance. She fell backwards. The Redeed braced herself for an impact that never came. Well, it came, but it was actually softer than what she had expected a floor to feel like. Opening her eyes, she saw Naruto had caught her in his arms. Naruto looked down at Tayuya. For some reason, he felt his heart racing. He didn't know why. He hadn't been the one falling, merely catching a would-be victim of a fall. He looked into her eyes, which slowly opened. She seemed to stare back for what seemed like an eternity. He would have gladly let the moment go on for so long. But his thoughts were shredded by the cackling of a certain nine-tailed fox. Not your mate indeed. Then why is it you raced to her rescue when it would have been more pleasurable to just watch her grab her head in pain? "Shut up you jackass," Naruto muttered too quietly for Tayuya to hear. He lifted her to her feet and despite initial protest that quieted down halfway up, he carried her the rest of the way up. He didn't stop until he reached the bathroom door, where he figured he could let her handle the rest while he collected his thoughts. He sat outside of the bathroom listening to the sound of the water hit the floor. He had never felt this way around a female before. Sakura didn't count because she had been a meaningless child crush. He felt different this time. Perhaps it was because he saw himself as the crutch Tayuya was using right now. Maybe because he had never had the responsibility of taking care of a human being at this level. Maybe it's because you know you would like to mate with her. But as you know, a meaningful human relationship would require honesty, and do you really think that she will want to be around you once she finds out about me? Naruto sighed. When the kitsune realized Naruto had no response, he burst out laughing. His host would suffer being alone forever. As much as he taunted and laughed at the boy, he couldn't help feeling a pang of regret and pity for the human though, the feeling was soon replaced by hunger. Fool. Feed me before I destroy you from the inside out. Naruto refused to listen to the fox's empty threats, thinking only about what he had said once again about Tayuya finding out the truth. He was afraid for some reason. He knew that the girl would reject him then, but why the hell did he even care? Could Kyuubi be right? Was he developing some kind of attachment to the girl? He beat himself on the topic until the bathroom door reopened and Tayuya stepped out. The clothes were just about perfect, save that the shirt was a little on the short side. "Well, they'll do," Tayuya said, "at least until I can fix mine up to respectable standards. Now there's a small matter that I think we should address." When Naruto stayed silent, Tayuya took a deep breath and continued, "I think someone is looking for me, someone sent by Orochimaru." Naruto sucked in his breath. He had a suspicion that something like this might happen. He didn't think that Orochimaru would accept that his Sound 5 had died without the bodies found. How do you figure that? Naruto asked carefully. Tayuya looked down, she seemed to be searching for the words. When I was in the shower, I felt him contact me through my seal. I didn't know he had that power. It may have been my imagination, but I think it'd be better for all the trash around here if I left ASAP. 2 days, the girl held up 2 fingers. Naruto's eyes widened when he heard that Orochimaru was looking for Tayuya, and he didn't have enough time to search his feelings to find out how deep his emotions were, but he knew he couldn't just send her off to face Orochimaru alone. You can't just go out there alone. Naruto said, if Orochimaru is sending someone and he knows of your skills, then chances are he's gonna send someone with a whole lot of power. As he said this, he couldn't help but think could Sasuke be coming. Tayuya shook her head. I have nowhere to go anymore. I was a sound ninja of the Sound Village. If I can't go back and I have no place else, I may as well accept my fate. Tayuya was wondering if she should leave right now, but she also wanted to ask a favor of the Kitsune boy. It was just a debt she couldn't repay anytime. Naruto, I owe you a lot. You tried to save me. Even if it turns out that if my wounds hadn't killed me, Orochimaru would have, but I was wondering if I could ask you a favor. Naruto looked directly into Tayuya's eyes. Go ahead, he said. I've never had friends. The Sound 5 were like business partners. Nothing we did together meant shit. It was just part of the job. I was wondering if Tayuya herself actually didn't believe the words that were about to slip out of her mouth. It must be that when you know you're going to die, you want to try anything you haven't tried yet. She inhaled deeply and exhaled. Naruto, could you spend today with me? As friends would. Even if we are really less than friends, Naruto was taken back. He had been prepared for her to ask if he would fight with her against Orochimaru, but this caught him totally off guard. Sure, Naruto said with a puzzled look, but when Tayuya looked into his eyes with a look that displayed a sort of happiness, he couldn't help feeling good. It was the right thing to do, it was the death wish of a ninja, and he won't deny it. She's alive, a raspy voice whispered. She's with the orange ninja, find them, kill her, if necessary, kill the boy too, but do it as secretly as possible. I don't want Tsunade finding out that I sent an operative to the hidden village of the leaf, it may spoil things for me. The person he was talking to was veiled in the darkness of his lair. He was speaking to a very deadly ninja, one that could refuse this request quite easily, and had a 40 chance of walking away with his life. But Orochimaru knew that the ninja wouldn't refuse his request. He had something on him, as he did with most of his employees. I will do it, the ninja said, but upon my return with the head of the girl, you will release her from your grasp. Orochimaru laughed. Kabuto, who was by his side as usual, just stared at the figure. You drive a hard bargain, but I will do as you wish, it is a microscopic price to pay. Thank you, Orochimaru-sama. The figure disappeared with that. Orochimaru knew that with him on the job, there was no way Tayuya could escape with her life. He needed her dead. She knew too much about the inner workings of his lair, and by this time tomorrow, she may be begging for mercy to no avail. Well, that's it for this chapter. It was a bit iffy for me. Tell me what you thought, huh? P.S. I will no longer be doing the beforehands and afterwards, that will be done by. There was nothing more exciting than the thrill of the hunt. Sometimes the fight isn't nearly as intense as the hunt, and Orochimaru's assassin knew it. He also knew that Konoha village was home to a few very powerful ninja. The copycat ninja Kakashi, for example, the old bitch Tsunade, masquerading as a young woman, and, of course, the Uchiha clan, well, formerly. There was not Uchiha left in the village, the people would never see a Sharingan again. It was really too bad. If the mission didn't have to be carried out in secret, he would show them all that he too could use Sharingan, combined with his many other techniques, he could quite literally turn the town upside down. Naruto and Tayuya walked outside. The girl had transformed into a blonde slightly resembling Naruto in his sexy jutsu form, so as to avoid the eye of the Hokage if she were casually glance over or anyone who may recognize her. The two had agreed to go for a walk around the village, then come back for lunch at Naruto's favorite ramen restaurant. So Tayuya, Naruto said, what was it like growing up in the Sound Village? Tayuya looked up into the sky. Well, since the country was pretty small, it was kinda lonely, there weren't many people to talk to. My parents died when I was young, but before my mother died, she gave me my first flute, she taught me how to play. I was fascinated by the melodies it could emit. I practiced every day when she was alive, until I could play a few short songs, after she died. I was sent to live with Tayuya. Stop there. Naruto could tell by the way her face scrunched up that she was remembering a particularly bad memory. You don't have to tell me everything if you don't want to, Naruto said. The redheaded blonde gave him a funny look. It's alright, I'm way over what happened. Anyways, I was sent to live with a particularly abusive family. They sent me to the small ninja academy just to get rid of me. Oftentimes when they were in a foul mood, they would beat me, but somehow, I managed to keep my sanity living there. I graduated with 4 others at the top of the class. And we were all assigned to a ninja by the name of Orochimaru. We became the Sound Five. We trained hard to bring out the best of our abilities. We completed many missions together, and that about brings you up to speed with my life." Naruto nodded, he was pretty sure he could guess what happened next. Then, the Kunoichi asked a question that Naruto dreaded she would eventually ask, and he still hadn't worked out an answer. "So Naruto, how about you? How was life growing up in Konoha?" Naruto felt his palms get sweaty, he couldn't think up a good lie to tell, so he was going to have to reveal the truth, why he didn't live with parents, why he was alone. He could warp his story to sound like Tayuya's, but he'd have to hammer out the details as she asked. "Well, before I was born, there was." Naruto was interrupted by the sound of his name being called. He looked down the road to see Sakura running up to him. "Naruto, hi," she said, "who's your friend?" Naruto looked over at Tayuya, who gave him a make something up look. Naruto thought for a second, then spoke. "This is a friend of mine from another village, her name is Taomi, she's visiting on a vacation from her training." The look on Sakura's face showed that she was satisfied with the response. "Hi there. Nice to meet you," Taomi said, extending her hand. Sakura shook it and smiled. "Likewise, I'm Haruno Sakura. Naruto and me go all the way back to the academy, hope you enjoy your stay in the village." "I'm sure I will," Taomi responded, "it has been pleasant so far and I hope to meet more of Naruto-kun's friends." Tayuya blushed slightly when she realized that she had added the kun suffix at the end of Naruto's name. Luckily, Sakura didn't seem to notice, she waved them off and continued on her route. Naruto smiled at Tayuya. "You called me Naruto-kun," Naruto said. Tayuya blushed a deeper shade of pink and looked away. "Well, even I can forget that you're nobody to be respected and that pink-haired shit can take her good morning greetings and shove em up her ass." Naruto laughed at Tayuya's frustration. Tayuya insisted that it wasn't funny until she realized that she would have to whack Naruto to get him to stop. They talked about different things and laughed until it was lunchtime. They were served free ramen and the couple had to force the restaurant owners to see that they were just friends and not on a date. They continued their not date until evening. When they sat together on a bench, they talked about ninja techniques and which one would work better on Gaara. Then they joked that Shukaku was from the planet Shukaken where there were millions of different Shukaku, each of them with their own personalities. They laughed at the absurd idea and then went quiet. The wind got chilly and Tayuya shivered. Naruto removed his jacket and wrapped it around Tayuya and she laid her head on his shoulder. Naruto tilted his head so that his cheek touched the top of her head. This was nice, it was fun having a relationship with someone on this level, an experience that both of them would savor. The hidden village of the leaf was quiet around now. The assassin leaped from tree to tree. He could smell the smell of Tayuya, although it was very faint. However, there was another scent closely mixed with hers. It must have been the orange ninja. They would both have to die on this cold night, and by the time the villagers realized they were dead, he would be long gone. And she will be free, and together, we can leave Orochimaru's grip. I can only pray that the departure is permanent. At last, the hunt was over. It wasn't very thrilling. When the prey is experienced, it knows when danger is around. Oh well, maybe the fools would try to run. He could get a second shot at the hunt. He could see them both, sitting together on the bench. It sickened him. Tayuya was actually allowing that maggot ninja touch her. He drew a single kunai and prepared to strike. It would be a clean kill, one shot. The fools would never know what hit them, and if the orange ninja was smart, he wouldn't question it. Naruto's eyes fluttered open. He still felt Tayuya's warm hair against his cheek. He must have dozed off in the moment. He never wanted the moment to end, but he knew that all good things must come to an end, and in 2 days tops, Tayuya would be leaving. He really didn't want her to leave. It would really suck. Tayuya felt the warmth of Naruto's body against her cheek. She had bonded with Naruto as a friend today. They shared a lot in common. She wondered if this was what it was like to love. She wasn't afraid of the word anymore. She assumed that she would be dead in a matter of time anyways, so why fear? She moved her head and looked into Naruto's clear blue eyes. They were perfect. She wanted to stare at him until she died. He was looking back into hers. Her heart pounded. She wondered how he felt about her. It was now or never. She wanted to know how much Naruto liked her, if their bonding had affected him as much as it had her. Naruto's heart beat fiercely. He looked deeply into Tayuya's eyes. Some force was drawing him towards her. He wasn't sure what it was, but he remembered the feeling from when he had posed as Sasuke and was very close to kissing Sakura. Could his demon have been right? He was falling for Tayuya, and he didn't want to stop. He wanted to be with her. He didn't know why. Maybe it had been in their day of bonding his view of her had changed as he learned that she had quite a bit in common with her, and now, their bodies were slowly sliding together, their faces now only a couple of inches apart. Naruto closed his eyes. Tayuya did the same. It was going to be the perfect moment. Suddenly, they both sensed danger. Their faces flew apart just as a kunai whizzed to the spot where Tayuya's head had been. Snips of her hair had been cut, but she hadn't been harmed. In the excitement, she had dropped her disguise, and she was revealed. The two looked up into the trees and saw a figure dart from them. "Hey! Get back here." Naruto and Tayuya yelled together, their mystery assailant sped off into the darkness, but was going slow enough for them to follow. He made his way to the outside of Konoha, closely tailed by the two young ninjas. They followed him out to a small clearing in the middle of the forest. Naruto looked around, it was too dark to tell where exactly he was. And they had lost the attacker, but his voice from somewhere told him that he hadn't lost him. You sure are foolish for ninjas, you fell right into my trap. Naruto looked around, are you trying to bluff us? There aren't any traps around here. Tayuya seemed to think differently, she knew exactly what the ninja meant. Naruto, can you see anything? Tayuya asked. When Naruto shook his head, she continued, but whoever this is, he sure can, that's why it's a trap, we can't see, but he can. Naruto clenched his teeth, how could he have fallen into this trap? He was a sitting duck waiting to be picked off. He heard the laughter of the evil ninja who then spoke again. Nothing personal, this is the only way that Orochimaru will comply with my request, it's going to be too easy since you were trapped so quickly. There was a silence, then all the trees around them seemed to shake, the enemy was all around them, the best part was, there was nobody to hear them scream. Beforehand. Roar. As we approach the climax of this story, I can only wonder what will happen now, it's the fight against the assassin, how will it end? But first, I, the great Lord Kyuubi no Yoki, will rip the author's mind apart to find a bit of information. Here are a few answers and thoughts. Mystery assassin. He is an Auk, and although his story hasn't been told yet, the author plans on releasing it sometime soon is like in a week or less. The story. It's coming to an end, there will be something shocking at the end, but the squirming author won't allow me to see it, oh well, by end, he means end of this chapter. The reviews. They have been much appreciated and have motivated him to continue on, keep it up good people. Communist corporate America. It flat out sucks, and those fools fighting over video game violence are going straight to hell, along with the people responsible for the 9/11's conspiracy. And now, I shall allow the author to resume his writing, enjoy the final 3 chapters. Also, if you have any more questions, don't hesitate to ask in your reviews or an email. Wake up you fool author. I am done shredding your feeble mortal mind. For now, hehehe. Chapter 6. Suddenly, a figure sped from the cover of the bushes. He stood at about 61 and wore a mask similar to Kakashi and Zabuza. His hair was silver and the moonlight shined and reflected upon it. His clothes included a black shirt and black pants. On his back, he carried a sword. His eyes were green and the lower half of his face was hidden behind his mask. His hair was wild sort of like Naruto's, but much longer. Naruto noticed his fingers, which had sharp nails. He wondered just what kind of ninja this man was. Tayuya, the ninja spoke, Lord Orochimaru has requested that I put an end to your life, certain circumstances forced me to agree, let's make this quick, I have other matters to attend to. When the Redeed didn't respond, Naruto did. Hey, who the hell do you think you are? You think you can just barge into Konoha, nearly assassinate someone, and then simply ask for their life when it doesn't go right? He'll kill you asshole. The ninja looked from Tayuya to Naruto. Shut your mouth you useless piece of shit, I don't wish to deal with an annoyance such as you, but, I will grace you with my name, Im Genkai of the Netherworld, I am literally a demon ninja. Naruto wanted to tell him that he wasn't the only demon ninja here, but he remembered Tayuya stood beside him, he kept silent. Tayuya was the next speaker. Tell Orochimaru to suck pig dick, because I don't plan on dying anytime soon, so you can pack up your mouth and any other shit you have lying around and go home before I get pissed, Jinkant. My, what a mouth you have on you, Genkai remarked. He drew his sword and shook his head. I can't comply with your request, please hold still, this will only be a minute. Naruto was about to defend Tayuya before he saw her hand shoot up and grab the sword. Blood dripped from her palms. Her cursed seal had activated to level 1. Genkai stared into her eyes. I see even though you don't associate yourself with Orochimaru-sama, you still use the power he had given you, no matter, it's simply a matter of wearing you down before the kill. I'm well aware of the limits of the cursed seals, you won't last long if you have no skills. Hey you. Naruto called out. Genkai took his eyes off of Tayuya and onto the orange ninja, who had now multiplied himself into 6, he didn't seem to be impressed. Is that the Kage Bushin no Jutsu? He asked. He jumped back from his lock with Tayuya, his eyes became red and familiar eyes replaced his original pair. Sha Sharingan. Naruto stumbled over the words, it couldn't be, this man could he be related to the Uchiha clan? No perhaps not, after all, Kakashi had a Sharingan and he wasn't related to Sasuke's clan in any way. What's the matter Orange One? Don't tell me you've been with Sasuke for so long and have never seen Sharingan. Genkai then sped fast towards Naruto's clones, with a series of slashing motions, they all poofed away, Naruto gasped, but quickly recovered from the shock. Three kunai swished out of the darkness and stabbed the evil ninja in the back. He appeared hit until a log appeared in his place. Substitution jutsu, clever and quick, the silver-haired ninja appeared in a nearby tree. But Naruto was already ready. His fist sped into the ninja's face. The crunch of cartilage filled Naruto's ears. But then, there was a poof, smoke, and the ninja was gone. It had been a shadow clone to distract him. "Naruto, look out." Tayuya yelled. In the sky, in front of the moon, the ninja was creating hand signs. When he finished, he yelled out, "Shadow Star." The night air was filled with a hail of shuriken. Naruto dodged every which way and was only hit once. In a brief moment, he saw Genkai speeding down from the air to Tayuya's position. Quickly creating a team of clones, he intercepted the attack. The ninja Sharingan allowed him to see Naruto coming at a slower pace, and his sword in left hand blocked the first few hits. But he had to divert his attention to Naruto, which gave Tayuya time to hit him with a strong kick to the gut. Genkai slammed into a nearby tree. Naruto quickly pulled several kunai out of his bag and threw them. Genkai quickly moved out of the way and made several hand signs. Naruto recognized the signs, and his clone team rushed to stop the shadow ninja. They were a tad late. Kaiten. Nkakik no Jutsu. The ninja inhaled and exhaled fire from his lungs. The clones were sent to oblivion. The fire appeared to hit Naruto, but Tayuya was already out of the way. She frantically scanned for the blonde ninja, but couldn't see through the flames. Genkai finally stopped blowing. He laughed as Tayuya scanned for the orange ninja. "You'll see when the smoke clears, you see him nice and crispy." Genkai began to prepare for an assault on Tayuya, but he heard a strange noise behind him. He turned to see Naruto with a whirling sphere of chakra in his hand. "What is that?" Genkai asked. As if in response, Naruto shouted, "Rasengan," and shoved the sphere into his back. The great pain nearly drove him insane. He flew towards the other side of the forest, where instead of slamming into a wall, Tayuya jumped into his path and kicked him back. Genkai slammed and slid across the forest floor. Tayuya and Naruto flashed each other, got up slowly. There was a hole in the back of his shirt where the Rasengan had hit him, and his lip was bleeding. "You two are really getting on my nerves. The kid gloves come off now. I must win this fight." Naruto then made an error. "Why? So you can suck up to Orochimaru? Fuck him and fuck you too, and fuck whoever else you may be here." Tayuya noticed the man's eyes open wide. She knew the loudmouth ninja had struck a chord. The ninja clenched his fists and spoke through clenched teeth. "Fuck my mission. Fuck my reasons. Orange ninja, you are my new target. Tayuya can wait. You are going to die tonight." He made many hand signs in a few seconds and said, "Dark barrier jutsu." A box made of dark matter engulfed them all. There was nowhere no run and few places to hide. The ninja didn't appear done yet. His body was changing. His nails grew longer. His canine teeth grew sharper. His eyes turned deep red and a tail spouted from his tailbone. Dark chakra engulfed him. Demonic wings shot from his back. Dark marks appeared on the bottom of his eyes. He roared loudly and said, "Come, let us decide who gets fucked up tonight." Naruto took one step back, and before he knew it had happened, a fist drove into his chest. Blood shot from Naruto's mouth. The demon ninja then kicked the boy in his chin and unleashed a fury of punches, kicks and scratches onto Naruto. The attack ended with a headbutt into the dark barrier. Naruto slammed into it and fell onto the ground. "Naruto." Tayuya cried out. Genkai was no longer a person to play lightly with. He aimed to kill with each hit. She pushed herself to level 2 and brought out her flute, which she had spent time fixing during her stay with Naruto. She put it to her lips and began playing the instrument. The demon ninja heard the song fill his ears and sped towards Tayuya. A giant zombie-like creature blocked his path. This only made the ninja run faster. His arms were behind him flailing around in the wind. The ninja then sped to all fours and reached an incredible speed. There was a sickening noise as the zombie's body was shredded. Genkai blasted out of the back of the creature and raised his claw. There was a swiping sound, and Tayuya's flute fell to pieces. She grabbed her cheek and looked at her hand. It was covered in blood. She backed away from Genkai, who roared and charged Tayuya again. The intent to kill was in his eyes. Naruto's eyes fluttered open. He saw the demon smash into Tayuya. There was a cracking noise and a loud scream of agony. "Tayuya-chan." Blood spattered everywhere. Time seemed to stop for Uzumaki Naruto. There, in front of him, was the most horrible scene he could imagine. Genkai's arm hand actually impacted hard enough to go through Tayuya's body. Tayuya's eyes were wide open. She seemed to be trying to catch her breath. It wasn't coming easily to her. Genkai had a wild look in his eye, as if he wasn't done, and he wasn't. He removed his arm from the inside of the female ninja and head-butted her a few feet from Naruto. His eyes shot open. "Tayuya-chan, Tayuya-chan." Naruto curled over to her. Her eyes were slowly closing. She used her strength to reach up and touch his face. Naruto couldn't control the tears flowing down his face. Tayuya was dying right in front of his eyes. A few days ago, that wouldn't have been anything he cared about. But since they had spent a bit of time together, he had started developing a sense of closeness with the deed, and now she was dying right before his eyes. His little knowledge of the healing jutsu wouldn't cut it this time. He needed Shizune or Tsunade. He needed someone. And Naruto, Tayuya said quietly as a small smile crept onto her face. Naruto shook his head. Don't talk, save your energy. The blonde ninja's tears splattered on the girl's chest. She gave him a small smile and continued to talk. Today was the single best day of my life. I've never bonded with anyone in my entire life. You are my first, Naruto. Despite my constant trash talking, after spending some time with you I realized that not all people are the same. They don't all want you for your abilities. Some like you for who you are. Naruto, you the first person to accept me out of kindness and not so you could exploit me. Thanks, I won't forget you even when I pass on to the other world. I won't forget you, Naruto-kun. At this point, she stopped talking and hacked up more blood. Her eyes filled with tears as she ran her hand down Naruto's cheek. They then fell limp to her side. She was still alive, but very faintly. How nice, an evil voice behind Naruto spoke. Naruto's emotions went from sadness to extreme anger. He couldn't stand Genkai. Red chakra began to envelop him. He began to growl. Before he was consumed by the fox's chakra, he used a bit to heal Tayuya to a state where she had a chance. Her huge stomach wound healed almost instantly. Her breathing went from erratic to calm, then. Naruto turned back to Genkai, who was staring at the red chakra engulfing the orange ninja. What is that? He asked slowly. Don't tell me you are a demon too. Naruto shook his head. When I was a baby, the fourth Hokage sealed the fox demon Kyuubi inside of me. Me and Kyuubi have reached an understanding, and now, I can call on his chakra when I need it. 4 chakra tails sprouted from Naruto's back. His face looked feral. Genkai knew of the fox demon Kyuubi. He knew that it had unlimited chakra, and he knew that he was in real trouble now. Level 1 demon stage couldn't defeat the fox. He needed to push it to the next level, but that was a level he hadn't had time to practice control over. He wasn't sure what to expect, but he had to do something. Flashback. It was very hot. The flames of hell licked at Genkai's heels. As he entered the chamber of his creator, Satan, he was finally going to find some answers. My son, the devil spoke. His face was cloaked in a black hood. He spoke in a raspy voice. The demon within you grows stronger each day. You were even able to kill Cerberus, but you are holding yourself back. Why? Genkai spoke firmly, despite the intimidation of his father's presence. I have to know, what am I? What the hell am I? I thought I was an exceptionally gifted shinobi at first, but when I fought Cerberus, something inside of me lost it when I was on the verge of death. I nearly lost touch with reality. I couldn't control my body. There was another presence. An evil one that wanted to shred everything in its path, but it seemed extremely frustrated for some reason, and Tyson says that you would have all the answers. The devil chuckled and looked into the ceiling. Not even the power of his heavenly mother and the archangels could stop him from finding out about his true destiny. Satan turned back to Genkai, who still looked confused. My boy, it started before you were born. Your father came to me in need. He asked that I grant him immortality. He said he would give me anything I wanted. At first I thought that there was nothing a mortal could do for me, but then he mentioned his son, and this made me happy. I told him that in exchange for his son's soul, I would grant him immortality and great power. He quickly accepted. You are my ultimate creation, a fusion of demon and human, whose true purpose is to help me. The presence within you is merely the evil you cannot yet control, but your mother in heaven is binding it, but we can fix that. Genkai dropped to his knees. I'm a demon. That's what it all is. My father sold my soul for immortality. No, it can't be true. But it is, my boy, Satan whispered harshly. You've only experienced level 1 of 3, you shouldn't push yourself to level 2 until you can completely control level 1, or else you'll risk losing yourself to the darkness. But I'm already lost, Genkai shook his head, and Yumi is she. Then flashback. Genkai watched Naruto charge at him. No, he thought, I can handle this on my own. Naruto smashed the spot Genkai had just been in. The devil demon flipped into the air. Naruto quickly launched himself into the air and engaged the enemy in a fistfight. Each blow was meant to kill, but luckily Genkai was able to block each hit barely. Was it worth losing himself to the darkness to defeat this ninja? Naruto landed a few yards in front of Genkai and launched his chakra hand, successfully smashing the devil into a rock. Genkai slid to the ground. The evil inside of him beckoned him to call upon its power, but Genkai didn't listen. He had to win this himself. Naruto sped into the trees. He used his chakra hands at random times in attempts to crush the devil. 3 times Genkai was smashed, then Naruto kicked him and clawed him until he landed in a heap on the ground. Naruto panted heavily. As he looked up, he could see the moon going away. Morning was coming soon. His target was still alive. He would have to change that. He looked over to Tayuya, who now seemed to be asleep. Genkai howled in agony. He couldn't take this. His body was so weak that the demon was taking control all by itself. The demon would be merciless. He may even shred the whole town of Konoha, and if that happened, then Orochimaru may not keep up his end of the bargain and release his sister from his evil grasp. Or, maybe the demon would also shred Orochimaru. Whatever the demon was going to do, he was going to do it now. Kyuubi mused a dilemma over in his mind, shred or smash. Which was more satisfying? Naruto had counted on his power to crush the evil demon, and now he got to choose how it died. But his eyes shot open as Genkai stood up once again. His body moved as if it were drunken, then, it tensed up, a fierce look reflected in his eyes. He roared extremely loud, it shook the entire forest. Kyuubi hadn't had time to blink before Naruto was hit in the gut hard. Dark crush. A deep voice boomed from Genkei's throat. Dark energy shot from Genkei's body and wrapped around Naruto's throat like a collar. It began squeezing tightly, and Naruto gasped for air. Kyuubi used his strength to raise the boy's hand and use his chakra to cut the energy rope. Naruto gasped for air. Before he could compose himself, Genkei's foot smashed into his face. Blood ran down Naruto's face. Kyuubi saw the demon move at a speed rivaling his own. Before Naruto hit a surface, he was kicked in his ribs the other way. Once again, the devil beat him to surface. He was going to crash into and kicked him in the gut upwards. Naruto hacked up blood and hit the ground hard when Genkei's fist drove into his back and knocked him down. Naruto's body was going to be broken and sore before this fight ended. Kyuubi didn't give a damn though. He was more interested in testing himself against this demon, but he needed more power. Naruto's resistance was so feeble now that he was able to barely squeeze out another tail to increase his chakra. He ran at the devil and began punching and clawing at high speeds. They were making so much energy that the chakra was visible. The power being exerted from the warring demons was enough to dispel the dark barrier. The demons jumped back from each other. Kyuubi opened both of Naruto's palms and created a double Rasengan. He sped at the evil demon, who was now making use of the Sharingan's ability to slow down the enemy's movement and jump to fraction in time. The power spheres crashed through the forest and created a new clearing. Kyuubi turned around in time to see the evil demon finish making hand signs. Devil Doom. He cried as a huge dark energy surrounded it. He raced towards Kyuubi. Kyuubi made it out in time, but the demon detonated the energy, and the radius of the blast caused him to receive minor damage. He shook his head. The forest was becoming less of one with every power attack. He dived with his mouth open at Genkai. The devil was just recovering from its attack when Kyuubi tore into its flesh and used his chakra to make the wound burn. The demon howled and kicked Naruto's body off. Genkai punched him twice in the face, and his dark energy formed a fist, which punched him in the gut. Kyuubi kicked the devil back and hit him with all of his tails, sending him sprawling into a tree. Kyuubi let Naruto breathe, even he was experiencing problems. He looked up, the sky was very cloudy, a small ray of sunshine struck him on his forehead protector. How long had this fight been going on? He looked back at the devil, who appeared to be grabbing his face and body in pain. He was hurting badly. After a few minutes it stopped. Genkai was extremely beaten, blood covered his face, but Naruto also wasn't much better. He could feel the extent of the damage. He could heal him now, but he would risk vulnerability. The devil seemed to be thinking the same, because it looked ready to continue the fight. Here we go again, Kyuubi thought as he sped into combat. Tayuya looked into the sky. It was early morning. The clouds covered the morning sun, but her eyes were sparkling as if the sun was shining in it. This battle may be over soon. If she could depart some information to Naruto, she could see that Naruto was no longer himself. She had watched nearly an hour of the fight, waiting for the dark demon to slip up, and if she was correct, he finally had. She watched Naruto, or whatever the hell he was, fight Genkai, or whatever the hell he was. When they backed away from conflict, Tayuya called out to Naruto. "Naruto-kun," she said. Naruto slowly turned to Tayuya, afraid to take his eyes off of his opponent. "I think I've found the weakness. I need to test my theory though." Naruto and Kyuubi's voices spoke as one. "I don't have time for theories. I need to beat him now, not after going through the scientific method. Naruto, I know you're tired, but hear me out. Remember when the sunlight reflected off of your headband?" When the boy nodded, she continued, "I noticed that the light had reflected into the demon's face. That's when it started clutching itself in pain. There's no time to test the theory. We have to expose it to sunlight, but there's a slight problem." She pointed towards the sky. Naruto immediately saw the problem. It was going to be a cloudy day. The sun's light couldn't breach the clouds. "It'll take care of it," Naruto said, "but hell catch on as soon as I try." Tayuya shook her head. "I can take care of that," Tayuya said, "but we've only got time to try this once. Before he realizes what we know about him, we have to do this right." Genkai shook his head and closed his eyes. This Kyuubi was extremely powerful, but he was willing to take this battle until the end of time. Genkai's body was crushed, but the demon soul made it fight. He couldn't feel the pain, so he could keep it up, at least, until the body was completely crushed or totally used up. He opened his eyes. The Kyuubi was lying on the floor. Its chakra continued to seep from the host though. He smiled. "I see your host is finished." The demon laughed. "Kyuubi, it's shame that you are restricted to such a weak body. I pity you, but don't fret, I'll use my ability to make you a part of us." On the hands of Genkai, the dark energy formed two beasts resembling evil demons. They roared fiercely. Genkai ran quickly to Kyuubi. The beast began to tear the chakra from Naruto. The first tail was ripped off and eaten by Genkai. The rest of the chakra soon followed. Naruto screamed as his demon was ripped from his body. Genkai laughed as he finished his meal. Now, he was even stronger before. Genkai looked up and saw Tayuya standing in front of him. He smiled. How does it feel now? You're so weak. You can't beat me. I'll eat you for dessert. Suddenly, his eyes shot open, he looked to his feet and two zombified hands were holding them, sticking him to his spot. He smiled and said, I don't need to move to defeat you. But you will to defeat him. Tayuya said as she pointed to the sky. Genkai saw Naruto very high in the sky, close to the clouds. Genkai looked to the ground, there was nobody there, the chakra he had eaten, now that he thought about it, it hadn't made him feel any stronger. An illusion. Genkai said, a nice try, you tried to keep me tied down, so the orange one and Kyuubi could get help. I'll deal with you once I stop him, stay. Dark energy wrapped around Tayuya. Tayuya struggled, but couldn't get free. Genkai smiled and jumped after Naruto, in a direct line behind the blonde ninja. Tayuya looked at the ground, the rest is up to you, Naruto-kun, she thought. Naruto was so close, he just needed a few more meters now, this was one hell of a jump, to the clouds, that's where he needed to get. Behind him, he saw Genkai coming up fast behind him, the demon was crazed now and wouldn't stop at anything. Naruto began the process. Double Rasengan. He yelled as the whirling energy balls formed in his hands. Suddenly, hands clamped down on his ankles. He looked back and saw Genkai, his claws had dug into his ankles. Looks like you failed to run away. Genkai yelled, I win, Kyuubi. This next move will decide this match. Naruto nodded. It certainly will, won't it? He said, also, who says I was running away? Maybe I was trying to get you here. Genkai looked confused until he saw Naruto put his Rasengan in the clouds. The wind created from the chakra ball was repelling the clouds, and directly behind these clouds happened to be the sun. Genkai cried out as a huge gap in the clouds revealed the gas giant. The sunlight shined down on the two demons. It was extremely bright this close up, like a beam from heaven. It shone down to the spot where Tayuya stood. Jaya. Genkai let out a horrible scream, smoke rose from his body, the dark energy began melting off of his body. He released Naruto's ankles and fell to the ground, there was a huge explosion, and the dark energy combusted. Naruto smiled and used his chakra to land safely onto the ground. Tayuya was waiting for him, she looked extremely weary, but she smiled as Naruto landed next to her. Kyuubi's chakra left him, and he fell to the ground in a heap. Tayuya fell beside him, his eyes were barely open. Looks like we won, he said. He looked into Tayuya's eyes, she looked back into his, thanks for thinking up that strategy. Tayuya shook her head, if you hadn't healed me, I'd be dead right now, so the credit goes to you. Naruto coughed, it was the Kyuubi that healed you, I didn't do anything. Tayuya shook her head. I don't think Kyuubi gave a fuck about me, it was your will that told him to help me. Damn right I don't give a fuck about you. Kyuubi said in Naruto's head. Naruto mentally thanked him. Fuck you too, Naruto, I'm still gonna shred the both of you one day. Naruto fell completely silent. Tayuya let his head rest on her lap. She looked at Genkai's body. Someone was recovering it. She couldn't tell who. Orochimaru. Well, whoever it was, they were getting ready to leave with Genkai in tow. He shot her a look that said, this isn't over, bitch, and he left. Tayuya knew it too. Orochimaru wasn't likely to let her off too easily, but for now, she was satisfied being safe with Naruto-kun, safe with Naruto. But that, she too collapsed. Naruto's eyes slowly opened, every muscle in his body screamed in agony. Beside him, Tayuya sat asleep in a chair. It took Naruto a moment to realize where he was. Konoha Hospital. Someone must have found and rescued them. In my head, Naruto moaned. Tayuya's eyes shot open and she looked at him. Finally awake, huh? She said with a small smile. Your sensei found us after about an hour, although they had been looking ever since they saw that light in the sky from your hole in the clouds. He took us back here. Tayuya took a deep breath, Hess explaining to the Hokage why I'm here. Naruto nodded a bit. Did you see what happened to Genkai? Naruto asked. Tayuya shook her head. Naruto sighed and looked at the ceiling. He got really offended when I insulted his reason for attacking us. If Hess really that patriotic towards completing his mission, he'll be back, and Orochimaru will be backing him up. Orochimaru's lair. So the boy and his demon were able to defeat you due to your weakness to sunlight, clever little bastard, isn't he? Orochimaru mused as he commented on Genkai and his assistant's report. Kabuto had more questions. How do you plan to make up for this failure? He asked. Genkai looked up, he looked as if he had never battled Naruto, his body was missing scratches and scars, but his eyes were colder than ever, it was apparent that he was going to do something drastic. The orange one insulted my reason for obeying your orders. I will exact revenge on him. I will take my army." At this point, he waved his hands, and 4 figures appeared, the sound 5 minus Tayuya. They had been resurrected by the dark energies of the demon that was Genkai. They all had lifeless looks. "These 5 plus more will help me decimate Konoha village, and I will take that which is dearest to Naruto from him." Genkai put his hand on his assistant's head. The man rose. He was a bit younger than Genkai, perhaps 17 to Genkai's 19. His red eyes bores into Orochimaru's yellow ones. "Raimiel will get the message to them and also begin the attack. I have confidence that he can even crush Tsunade in her super strength." Raimiel nodded. Orochimaru nodded as well. "See to it that the mission I gave you is put above all," Orochimaru said before dismissing Genkai. Genkai smirked. "I just said that I would take what is most dear to Naruto. That means that at all costs, Tayuya must die." Shizune walked into Naruto's room. She glanced at Tayuya, who gave her a funny look, and she focused her attention on Naruto. "Naruto-kun, do you think that in the future, you could try to keep yourself in reasonably good health?" she asked. Naruto smiled as the nurse checked him out. She put her hand over his chest and made sure that he was recovering properly. Tayuya couldn't help feeling a bit jealous when she touched Naruto, but, she said to herself, only a little bit. "You are healing well, Naruto-kun," Shizune said with a smile. Naruto smiled too. Tayuya could feel her face burning red with jealousy, but she did her best to conceal it. "How's Tayuya doing?" Naruto asked Shizune. The nurse's face dropped a little. Her bright smile disappeared and was replaced by a straight face. She began to scribble on her notepad. "She healed better than you. She did mention something healing her before we could get to her." Shizune nodded at Tayuya, who twiddled her fingers. Shizune left the room, leaving the young ninjas together. "So the Kyuubi," Tayuya said slowly. Naruto turned away. He couldn't bear to think about what she was going to say. He imagined that she wouldn't want him to get close to her anymore, even his fox knew it. "You called on my power, and now she will never accept you. You're a monster, destined for loneliness, and that's all you'll ever be until the day you die, and I plan to be the one to kill you." Tayuya guessed from the way that Naruto turned at the mention of the fox demon that he really didn't want to talk about it. She looked at the floor. She really didn't know what to say. "Naruto, Genkai isn't going to let up. I know he'll be back. He put you in this state for this time. Next time, it could be worse. I don't want to cause you more pain, and I don't want him to come here and threaten your friends." Naruto turned to Tayuya. "Tayuya, if he comes back, he's not just going to be looking for you, he's going to want me too, and you leaving the village on your own won't help anybody at all," Naruto said firmly. "She's looking for an excuse to run from you, dipshit." Kyuubi mocked. Naruto mentally told him to shut up. "Naruto, I want to distance him from you as much as I can. While I do that, you can train to fight him, because I also have a suspicion that he won't stop at me anymore. If he has no beef with you, then I'm better off in the woods where we can fight fair and I can't be hurt by the monster inside of you." Kyuubi mocked yet again. Naruto didn't say anything this time. He stared at Tayuya, who stared back at him with soft eyes. Suddenly, Naruto went off. Maybe it was Kyuubi's mocking. Maybe it was that combined with his fear of Tayuya openly rejecting him. Maybe he wanted to reject her first. "You know what? Fine. Go into the woods. Fuck off, you damned whore. I hope Genkai finds you and you fucking die and burn in hell. Bitch, if you don't want to be around me, then fucking say so. Are you afraid of Kyuubi like everyone else? Fine. Leave me. Fuck you and fuck the world too." Naruto stopped. He breathed heavily and looked at Tayuya with a death look. The girl's eyes were welling up with tears. Tayuya didn't know what she had done. Naruto had just gone off suddenly. She didn't know why he was so pissed at her. She didn't know why she cared so much. She didn't understand herself. Why was her heart hurting so much? Why was Naruto being so cruel? She wanted nothing short of death right now. Naruto was looking at her angrily. She decided it was time for her to leave. Naruto, you are a piece of shit. Fuck you and your dream to become Hokage. You won't make it past Genin. That damn demon is probably the only reason they graduated you from the academy. To get you the hell out of there." Tayuya ran out of the room. "Ahahaha." Kyuubi laughed maniacally. "Naruto, you dumped her before she could dump you. You did the right thing. Now we can go back to focusing on the important, getting Sasuke back." Naruto nodded as he laid back into his bed. He felt a pang at his chest. Sadness. Regret. Guilt. He didn't care. From now on, he would be alone and look out for number one. If people couldn't accept him for who he was, then fuck people. He would be who he was, and those who could accept it, then maybe they could be considered friends. Naruto couldn't figure out why he was so mad right now. He was afraid. Tayuya was already an hour away from Konoha village. She had calmed herself. Her tears had stopped flowing, mostly because she had run out. She stopped in the next tree, putting her back against a sturdy branch. She began to think about her life and Naruto. First off, she wanted to know what had made her so emotional when Naruto announced that he hated her. She examined the feeling: sorrow, sadness, betrayal. Yes, she felt that Naruto had betrayed her for no apparent reason, but she didn't really care for the boy, did she? No, she had to stop lying to herself. She cared about Naruto, somewhere during their bonding time, and the battle she had developed something inside of her that made her care, deeper than any relationship she had ever had. Why was that? Aya sighed as she realized the truth. She had never had that kind of relationship with anyone. Everyone she had met had never cared much about what happened to her, so she felt something new when Naruto took time to mend her wounds. Someone who cared. Since she had never experienced that, she had trusted Naruto. He became someone who she would fight with, like she did with Genkai. But now he had betrayed her. That hurt more than any wound she had ever incurred. She didn't want to run. She wanted to go back to Naruto, but she didn't want to feel the pain anymore. She looked at the sky. Maybe she should go back to the way she was, the bloodthirsty bitch. That sounded good. Aya jumped onto the ground. She was about to tread forward when suddenly a boy a bit older than her appeared in front of her. His red eyes bored into her brown ones. She backed away. White wings extended from the boy's back. He carried a long, sharp lance. Aya reached for her flute and remembered she was having it repaired in Konoha. The boy nodded and raced towards her. Naruto frowned as he slammed back onto his pillow. He couldn't help thinking about what the hell was wrong with him. He had a sneaking suspicion that Kyuubi knew, but the fox wasn't talking. He had to find the answer himself. He stared at the ceiling and the answer came to him instantly. Sasuke. He and Sasuke had been brothers. He cared for Sasuke and he knew Sasuke cared about him, but the betrayal was still fresh in his memory and he had let that corrupt his mind. He took it out on Aya. He had been afraid that she would leave him like Sasuke did, so he decided that he would be the one to break them up. And that's just what he did. He had managed to fuck everything up. Damn it. Naruto yelled as he pounded his bed. Why had he been so stupid? Someone wants to care about him, and because he had been afraid of getting hurt, he had shut her away as fast as he could to avoid the pain of betrayal, and Kyuubi had reminded him that although he had been alone before Team 7, it had been bearable because the pain had been familiar and tolerable. But betrayal was new and it hurt, and a second betrayal was not what he wanted, but he hadn't given Aya a chance. He cut her off. He felt like such a jackass. He had to find her. Naruto unwrapped his hands and found to no surprise that they were alright. The fox was a good healer. He was ready to find Aya an apology, and hopefully she would accept. Aya's mind was in disarray. Her head hurt like hell, and she couldn't stop thinking about Naruto. Thoughts of the time that they had spent together whirled around before her eyes. She didn't know what was happening. The images stopped on the scene where she had been just moments earlier. She really didn't want to relive it. That for now I end the story. See next video.